Taking a look at the KBO Hurricane electric road bike. This is an electric single-speed belt-driven road bike that was sent to me by KBO for this review, and we're going to go into some of the features and designs of this bike. We'll take it for a ride, I'll tell you how it does, and then finally we'll bring up the things I like and I don't like before finding out exactly what it weighs. So if this kind of thing is interesting to you, I suggest you sit back and let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. So to begin looking at this KBO electric bike, the first thing to mention is just how clean and sleek it looks. So one of the things that really interested me in this bike is the fact that for all intents and purposes, you almost can't tell that it's an e-bike. You know, in fact, I've taken this to Walmart to do, my own shop, and this wasn't something I was concerned about leaving outside of Walmart locked up, because I felt like this didn't draw any additional attention than just a traditional bike would. The other real neat thing about this being sleek like this is you can tell it's a single speed setup. And single speed means there's only one gear up front, one gear out back, and no shifting to be done on the bike. And while if you're in a real hilly terrain, that's not the best option, what it is really nice for is having low maintenance and not much that you have to worry about. And they make that even a little bit better because, as you can see, instead of a chain, this is running a belt drive. So belt drives are typically on fairly high-end commuter bikes, and this belt drive is being done by a brand I don't quite recognize, Top Trans, but it seems to work pretty well. And I've ridden a few bikes that have had the Gates belt drive, which is a pretty high-end version of something like this. And this seems to be just about as quiet as I've noticed with those. But so with a belt drive, aside from making sure the rear wheel is tensioned, there's no lubrication or anything like that that's needed. So single speed, pretty clean look. This to me seems like a commuter bike. Now, a few things to talk about with the features. The frame itself is going to be an aluminum frame, has an 1.125" steer to the straight bladed fork. It's got a quick release up front, which in many ways for a commuter, I kind of wish that was bolt-on for a little extra security. But of course, because of the electric motor in the back, it's a bolt-on setup back here because it's running a rear hub motor. And what that means is the motor system is built into the rear wheel, and this is going to provide the propulsion while you're pedaling. So there's no throttle on the bike, it is only pedal assist. And this is getting its information based on the cadence or how fast you're pedaling, which gives it that little bit of assistance. And I've found that this has been pretty supportive. You do notice when you stop pedaling, there's maybe a second of lag before it pulls off the power, but it's pretty smooth overall. And this is a 36 volt system. So you can see this is a 36 volt rear hub. It's 350 watts of power. And in the down tube of the bike is 345 watt hours of battery. So it's Panasonic cells from what they say. 345 watt hours with that 350 watt motor means that they claim you could get anywhere between 18 and 55 miles. Now, I've been riding the bike a bit and I've definitely not been able to get 55 miles out of it, but taking it down to the shop, going for a fun run, somewhere in that 10 to 15 miles, I get back with quite a bit of range left on it. Now, rolling through a few other things, it is a double-walled aluminum rim with 700 by 32C slick-ish tires. They do have a little bit of tread. You'll see in my video while riding it, they do just fine on dirt and even grass like we see here. And then the cockpit is something that I actually think is pretty nice. So I was surprised when I got it. This has a name brand Cial Royale saddle. So this is the Nebula saddle. It is fairly narrow, not the most comfortable setup, but it's got a decent amount of gel to it. Comes with a Pro Max seat post, which is another name brand part. And then as you go up front, you've got an aluminum stem with this 25/4 handlebar. Handlebar is pretty narrow, but that of course is on purpose so that it can get through tight spaces in the city. And one of the things I really like is that they integrate a front light with it. So you can see here, the front light can turn on, and you get to peel this off with me. And up front, you've got that light with the reflector. Of course, you've got wheel reflectors. I chose not to install the rear seat reflector because I normally ride with a bike light. That might have been a place that it would have been nice to be able to have an extra light with the bike. Speaking of things that come with it, so this bike should come with a set of fenders. You can see I opted not to put them on, and that's simply because when I was installing the bike and putting it together, it's going super easy, but it's got these 2 bolts just above the tire right down there and up here that would have required removing the rear wheel to be able to get the fenders on. And for my use case, I'm not going to take it out in the rain, so I figured I think it looks a little better without them anyways. Moving on from that, you also get a kickstand with the bike, and you do get these nice Wellgo pedals, another name brand piece as well. To control the bike, you of course have these brake levers, which these are mechanical levers to mechanical brakes. They've got plenty of power, although they were a little noisy while riding. And then they'll have this cable so that it knows when you're braking and it'll shut off the motor. On the left-hand side, you're gonna get your little control unit that's able to control what's happening with the battery system. So the M button here allows you to turn on and off the light. So you see that little indicator that went on. It's got speed. You have your readout for battery life. And then right here, this is the mode selector. So you can ride it with 0 pedal assist, and it rides pretty much just like a heavier bike. If you put on 1, that more or less takes away the additional weight, gives just a little bit of boost. 2 was a place that I was finding to cruise was most of the time pretty good. And then finally, you can move it all the way to the high power 3 setting. Now, speaking of those settings, you'll see in the review, but I want to call it out here as well. The way this pedals with that single speed setup, I found myself in 3 basically running out of gear. So it's got enough power that it really gets going, goes 20, 21 miles an hour. And I believe the shutoff is at 23, but the gear is so light at that point that most of the time I was only riding about 19 miles an hour. So on 2, that works pretty trick. So that's a look at the overall setup of the bike. Let's go ahead, take it for a ride, and you'll see what I think. So to talk a little bit about ride feel and performance of the bike, for the most part, it rides pretty good. It's super, super silent, even with the electric motor going. On 3, it's got plenty of torque. On 1, I feel like it could have a little more, but if you were just cruising around or in the city, probably works out pretty good. The skinny tires do make for a pretty effortless ride, although when you get to a hill like we're on now, sometimes you do still have to stand up to get the bike to go up. And that can be expected because it is, of course, after all, a single speed. Now we did get up over that hill a little over 10 miles an hour, and you know, it's right back to speed. And that's going to be the trade-off, is having that belt drive, which is near maintenance free, is a really huge thing unless you live somewhere that's super, super hilly. And you know, around here, it's just about almost needing multi-speeds. But on this dirt that we're on now, tires hook up just fine. And overall, even on this really nasty pavement, it actually rides pretty decent. And as you can hear, the disc brakes are a little noisy, but they've got plenty of power. You know, that might be something that you would upgrade if you had the opportunity, you know, go to some hydraulic disc. But you know, again, this bike focuses so much on just being maintenance free and easy, you almost wouldn't want hydraulic discs for that reason. We'll hop right back onto the road here, and we're in 3, so we get up to speed basically instantly. And there's 20, and it'll go faster. You just start to run out of gear at the high end because your pedaling has to be so fast. Yeah, it rides pretty darn well. riding around on this rough dirt, you know, the bike still does pretty well. Feels reasonably stable and you know, under control. It could definitely do with slightly wider tires for a more comfortable ride, but it is totally doable in the grass wherever. So now that we've found out how the bike rides, let's go ahead and find out how much it weighs. So here on the scale, you can see it's coming in at 38.42 pounds. Thanks for watching this video on the KBO Hurricane bike. I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comment section below. You know, this thing with a single speed belt drive, mechanical disc brakes, and that integrated battery really scratches an itch, for me at least, as a good city commuter, or something that you might be able to just take out for a quick ride, bang to get some groceries, go to Walmart, what have you. Well, anyways, go ahead and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. While you're at it, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the like button, which lets me know that you enjoyed the video.